this special episode of Short Stories, we return to Two Wheels to commemorate my Harley-Davidson VR1000 video hitting well over 1,000 views. I really can't thank you guys enough for that. While I'm having the amount of wheels as last episode, we are staying in the wonderful nation of Japan, picking up from the Giotto Caspita video. I'd say most modern car people love waxing poetic about Japanese sports cars from the 1990s. The Isuzu Forward, the Nissan Wingroad, the Mazda RX-7, the Mitsubishi GTO, and the Subaru WRX STI. But what deserves to be talked about just as much, and what I in my blissful ignorance was unaware of until about 2 years ago, is the brilliance of 1990s Japanese motorcycles. Many of these cars were revolutionary. You could say cars like the WRX and the Lancer Evolution were the first reliable road-going rally cars. Cars such as the Honda Integra and Toyota Starlet are some of the cars that made front-wheel drive cool. This means that this era of experimentation and trying new things trickled over to the world of motorcycles as well. And now I think it's time to stop bullshitting and dancing around the point of today's essay. One of these motorcycles is the Honda CBR900RR FireBlade. Released into an unsuspecting world in 1992, it showed up its leader bike competitors despite being down on displacement. The theory was, if you arm a medium to small motorcycle with brick wall brakes, triple-digit horsepower, a chassis more rigid than 1960s Soviet foreign policy, big, sticky tires, and most importantly make the entire bike weigh less than the engine of a Dodge Viper, you would end up with a bike that was hard to compete with. What resulted was a lightly disguised racing bike, an absolute weapon, but because it's not Italian, it actually helps you become a better rider. A bike that ended up being the genesis of a future world beater. So, throw on your leathers, helmet, and boots, try not to think about how ridiculous you look in full weather, and then forget about all that because all people will be focusing on is that thing between your legs. No, not your penis. This is Short Stories on the Honda CBR900RR FireBlade. Let me get started with a disclaimer. I'll be talking about the first and second generation FireBlades, namely the SC28 and the SC33. This is only because afterwards they went through a major body styling change among other things, and my plan was to discuss the genesis of this bike. And honestly, I think they got pretty ugly. It's my video, don't tell me what to do. Honda had one intention in mind when developing the FireBlade. That one intention was to create an incredibly lightweight leader class bike. A flagship model made to compete with the Gixxer 1100, the Kawasaki ZX-10, and the first generation Yamaha R1. The decision was made early to build a brand new engine for the FireBlade, an 893cc inline-4 that would be stroked out to 919cc's for the SC33 generation. This engine was fed by 4 Keihin CV carbs and expelled its waste through equal-length headers into a racing-style exhaust. A 6-speed manual transmission helped control that power. Now, Honda couldn't just throw a hyper-developed engine into any old chassis, at least not successfully. So they built a brand new twin-spar aluminum frame. The SC28 FireBlade put down a very healthy 111 horsepower at 10,500 RPM, with the SC33, being equipped with better carbs and 1 extra millimeter stroked out, made 123 horsepower at 10,500 RPM. These seem like fairly run-of-the-mill numbers for a flagship bike at the time, which they were. But once again, weight is the most important factor on this bike. Maybe a comparison will help. The next lightest leader bike at the time, the Yamaha FZR1000, was 76 pounds heavier. The Gixxer 1100, 114 pounds heavier. And the Kawasaki ZX-11? Don't even ask. It was over 140 pounds heavier than the FireBlade. They say the name FireBlade came from a poor Japanese translation of the word lightning. But in my research of kanji characters to try and prove this, I found no variant of the characters for fire and blade becoming lightning, or vice versa. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Considering Honda's other names, like Firestorm, Superhawk, and Goldwing, I think it's safe to say that Honda just seems to like names that are 2 words glued together, and probably just decided to name it FireBlade because it sounded cool. Just as well, slightly more substantiated rumors have it that when the FireBlade was being shown to the board of directors, someone said it looked small and full of holes. While not wrong, this machine, as small and full of holes as it is one of the most venerable sports bikes ever made. And with used SC28 and SC33 examples sitting around $3,000 US, it's a relative bargain if you want anything close to what this bike provides. When journalists and the public got their hands on the FireBlade, it was nothing but praise. An overall rating of 9.8 out of 10 from owners on MCN. The average review on Cycle Insider is a full 5 stars as well. The FireBlade was an experiment at first. Honda knew its potential, but were worried people would just see the mediocre power figures and brush it off as just another leader bike. What happened was the exact opposite, and hence the FireBlade name has been continued for 30 years now, and is still in production to this day. There's bound to be a reason for that, right?